Hello, my name is John Bannon. I'm an attorney and philosopher. In today's video, I'm going to explain how superdeterminism destroys Daniel Dennett. This video is what they failed to teach you in college philosophy class about the philosophy of Daniel Dennett. When I speak of superdeterminism, I'm referring to a very specific, unique form of superdeterminism called Hansonian superdeterminism. It's based on the proof of Swedish theoretical physicist Dr. Johan Hansen, which you can find in the published peer-reviewed physics journal Physics Essays, volume 33, number 2, June of 2020, pages 216 to 218. It is entitled Bell's Theorem and Its Tests, Proof that Nature is Superdeterministic, Not Random. So Hansonian superdeterminism says that we live in three dimensions of space and one hidden static dimension of time in this fourth dimensional static block universe. It says that cause and effect in physics are not real. Probabilistic causation is not real. Physical causation is not real. And as a consequence, what you have is you have this fourth dimensional static block universe that consists of particles that are set like pebbles in concrete through the static dimension of time. You can't move them, you can't change them because there's no cause and effect in physics. There's no moving time because nothing can be caused to be moved in time. It's all permanent. And what you end up with is these patterns that the particles make through the static dimension of time, which we describe as our mathematical uh, laws of physics. Hansonian superdeterminism is not classic superdeterminism. Classic superdeterminism was first posited by Dr. John Bell in 1985, and it uses hidden causal variables. Hansonian superdeterminism disproves causation, so it cannot use hidden causal variables. Instead, it uses the lack of causation to show that the block universe is static, it doesn't move, it doesn't change. And the reason there are these correlations in entangled particles is because they exist in the static block universe as they are. You can't change them and they're not caused. They just are. So I listed 5 points on the board of Daniel Dennett's philosophy, and I'm going to show you how superdeterminism disproves each and every one of them. Number 5, Daniel Dennett believed that the meaning of life is actively constructed through our shared landscape of ideas. Under Hansonian superdeterminism, however, number 5 is false. And the reason is in a static block universe without cause and effect in physics, all the events that ever occur, whether past, present, or future, are all equally real and they all presently exist. And you can't change them and they don't move and they're just there. So every event in your life from birth to death still exists right now in the static block universe. So your entire life is permanent. It's what I call a block life, and it essentially consists of an information packet of these changing particle positions through the static dimension of time involving your body particles. So under Hansonian superdeterminism, the one thing that all living humans have in common is they all have block lives. So that's the common denominator. That is the universal meaning of life. Universal meaning of life is whatever your predetermined block life uh, has to play in the plan for the predetermined static block universe that God has created. If you say to somebody that the meaning of their life is X, and X does not appear in that person's block life, then it is meaningless to tell them that that's the meaning of life. So potentials cannot be universal meanings of life. Um, some people don't have, for example, uh, an actively constructed meaning through our shared landscape of ideas. For example, there are babies who are born without their cerebrums. So they never have any conscious experience in life, even though they're alive. So, how could they possibly construct their own meaning in life? They can't. So, to say to one of those babies born without a cerebrum that their meaning in life is to be actively constructed by them is meaningless to them. That is not, that's a potential, and it doesn't exist in their block life. So, it can't be a universal meaning of life. Number four, the church teaches belief in belief. So Daniel Dennett was claiming that the church values the institution of religion, even if the claims are untrue. So this is the idea that it's good to believe in God because it leads to a good life, even if the claims aren't true, the Christian claims aren't true. This is the idea that the Bible is really just wisdom literature that will help you in your life, even though ultimately it's all fake. So these are familiar ideas, I'm sure, to a lot of you. But the question is Daniel Dennett correct? Is that what the church is? An institution promoting belief in belief itself? And the answer is no, clearly not, even though a lot of people, even in the church, might disagree with me. However, under Hansonian superdeterminism, God predetermined the universe, and he predetermined Christianity to be the predominant world religion in terms of numbers of members over history. From that, you can reasonably infer the truth of Christianity, because why else would God make it predominant, especially when it has to do with Him? So you can reasonably infer the truth of the Christian claims, including the claim of an afterlife. Now, an afterlife is completely possible under Hansonian superdeterminism. And the reason is because we know God created the block universe outside of space time or atemporally. Therefore, God has the power to create other block realities, such as a heaven or a hell. Um, and He can copy and paste your information packet into another unconnected block reality like heaven or hell. So, yes, you could, in fact, be resurrected bodily in heaven or hell. So, Hansonian superdeterminism supports the possibility of the Christian claim as being true. All right. Number three, humans have elbow room to look ahead and avoid undesirable outcomes. So, elbow room is Daniel Dennett's uh, phraseology for his compatibilist view on free will. However, you cannot have elbow room in a Hansonian superdeterministic universe because you cannot avoid predetermined future events. It's impossible without cause and effect in physics. So that clearly disproves Daniel Dennett's idea of elbow room. Number two, evolution requires no divine assistance. Um, well, Daniel Dennett's partially right about this. Uh, in his Hansonian static block universe, there is no causal processes. So there would be no need for God to assist evolution. And this is where Daniel Dennett gets it wrong, because evolution is not a process or a causal process, because there's no cause and effect in physics. So evolution is essentially a natural process that appears through the static dimension of time in the block universe. It's an ordering of these particles that are involved in life and DNA through time. But it's not a causal process. It doesn't run the show itself. It is an appearance, but it has no actual power uh, to cause anything because there's no cause and effect in physics. So evolution is certainly real and an aspect of our static block universe, but it is a pattern of particle organization. It is not a causal process that independently runs the show through particles. Now, under superdeterminism, there's an interesting point to be made about evolution, and it involves what I call the SD force or superdeterministic force. So, in a predetermined static block universe without cause and effect in physics, all events have been predetermined, past, present, and future, which means if there is a future life form that exists in the block universe, derived through evolutionary processes, then past events involving evolution must account for it. So they must allow this future life form to arise. They have to. So they have to be patterned in a certain way uh, that leads to this future life form. That's what I call the SD force. It's not technically a real force because there's no cause and effect in physics, but it's sort of this idea that the predetermined future requires certain patterns in the past, certain events to be patterned a certain way to lead to these predetermined future results. And that sort of acts like this invisible guiding hand to a future event. Okay. However, that SD force is just a pattern in the static block universe itself. It's not a causal force. It's not something in and of itself that is independent doing its own thing. It's just a static pattern of particle organization. Number one, God is a meme or cultural byproduct. So Daniel Dennett did not believe in God. And one reason was to him, there is no evidence of supernatural intervention in the material world. Now, again, He's half right here. It is true that there is no evidence of supernatural intervention in the material world. But under Hansonian superdeterminism, God doesn't have to intervene in order to be real. And the reason is because the entire block universe is predetermined by him. And it was atemporally created in one simultaneous act, the entire whole static block universe, all four dimensions, created instantaneously in one act, including all history and all the events of everything that happens in the universe. So if God has already pre-planned everything that's already happened to the smallest detail, then he doesn't have to intervene in the universe. So you don't need evidence of intervention to believe in the existence of God. The evidence of atemporal creation are things like uh, the wave-like nature of quantum mechanics. So if you think of taking two pebbles and you drop them in a pond and their ripples meet, you have places where the ripples meet where there's constructive interference where the wave height is twice, and there's parts where it's destructive interference where it's just still. And if you take that stillness and you look at it in reverse, suddenly you've got waves from nothing. So that's implies that the reason we have wave-like quantum mechanics is because physical reality comes from nothing. But nothing has no power to cause anything without cause and effect in physics. That's why you need a God with the power to cause physical reality to come from nothing, or ex nihilo. Another indicator of atemporal creation is transcendent logic. So, for example, there was a recent scientific experiment that showed that virtual particles they played a role in particle collisions involving hyperons. Virtual particles are mathematical constructs. They don't actually exist. So what it's telling you is there is this mathematical construct, this transcendent logic, that is actually involved in the outcomes of particle collisions. So it proves transcendent logic. And what do you need transcendent logic for unless you're creating a physical reality? It's a higher level than physical reality. Why would you even have it if physical reality wasn't atemporally created? And of course, once you have atemporal creation, you need a God, because atemporal creation out of nothing requires a creator who knows and understands everything that is being created in that block universe, including the most advanced technologies. So that creator would have to know of and understand the most advanced technologies before it created the universe in order to create the universe, which means it has to be supremely intelligent by definition. And it has to have the free will to choose what universe to create and what universe not to create. And it would have to know everything, because that's how you create universes. You have to know everything in order to create universes with all these things in it. So um, another point is Daniel Dennett thinks that God is a cultural byproduct, but cultures can't actually produce anything because they don't have cause and effect in physics. Rather, God is an idea that has been predetermined to exist in our static block universe, in human culture, and in human history. So God himself has predetermined our universe to have the idea of God in it. That's not a big surprise that the creator would want his creation to know he exists. Wow, that's not a surprise at all, actually. Um, God wants to take credit and wants to be worshipped. So there you go. I hope you learned something about the philosophy of Daniel Dennett and the many, many holes in it that Hansonian superdeterminism makes. I'll give you a second to read the board. All right, until next time, take care.